Good afternoon. My name is Shan Chen, and I'm the local health improvement coordinator for the Healthy St. Mary's Partnership. HSMP is excited to be working with several community partners on the upcoming Lexington Manor Passive Park Community Garden. We are pleased to come together today with Mariah Dean, the Master Gardener Coordinator at the University of Maryland Extension, to learn about how to preserve produce harvested from your garden and the upcoming community garden. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we begin. If you are viewing the session live, please send any questions through the comment platform that you are viewing from. If you have any issues with the comment section on the platform, feel free to email us your question at stmaryspartnership@gmail.com. If you are viewing this as a recording, please send questions to us via email. Without further ado, I will turn it over to Mariah. Hey, Mariah.
Hi, thank you, Shan. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. Oh, wait, it's already sharing, isn't it? Cool. All right. Start the slideshow here. Oh, let me turn my camera off. There we go. Start the slideshow from beginning. All right, so my name is Mariah Dean. I'm the St. Mary's County Master Gardener Coordinator for University of Maryland Extension. I'm helping to work on the Lexington Manor Community Garden Lexington Manor Passive Park Community Garden. And today I'm talking about food preservation. And yeah, I don't normally talk about this. Used to be my coworker, Erin Jewell, in Family and Consumer Sciences would do the food preservation presentations and education. But she is currently out of the office, so I'm giving it my best. So have a little mercy on me, please. So just the general spiel of how is Mariah and St. Mary's County tied to University of Maryland? Well, University of Maryland is a land grant institution, and many land grant institutions have what is known as the Extension Service, which is where the university extends themselves into the community to bring university level education and research to its state's residents throughout its entire state and communities. So for University of Maryland, Extension falls under the College of Ag and Natural Resources at the University of Maryland, and I'm specifically in the Master Gardener program. The Master Gardener program has like 6 sub-programs. We have the plant clinics. You'll find us at these in St. Mary's County at the libraries. We had one yesterday at the Leonardtown Library. Farmers markets. And that's pretty much it. We had one last weekend at the fair. We hope to have a couple more at upcoming community events. We've been at like Easter Festival. Like I said, the St. Mary's County Fair. We'll be at STEAM Day, which is a festival that's going to be at the St. Mary's County Fairgrounds, and a bunch of other just local community level events. We also do the Grow It, Eat It program, which teaches you how to grow and then eat your own food. And this is kind of a offshoot of that. It's kind of like a Grow It, Eat It, Preserve It program. Then we also have the Baywise program, which is all about teaching you ways to garden in ways that are friendly to the Chesapeake Bay. We educate people about pollinators, composting, and native plants. And pollinators and native plants often tie into one another. I always say the best thing about the Master Gardener program is what we learn, but also the networks. So I'll do my best to answer questions today, but I tell her I get stumped at least once a day, which I think is good because I don't pretend to know everything. But there are so many resources available through the University of Maryland Extension. We have the Home and Garden Information Center online. There's the Ask an Expert option, which you can submit all your gardening questions to. Like if you have if you can submit pictures and like timelines of anything wrong in your home landscape or garden, someone there will be able to answer it. We also have the Maryland Grows blog where we post seasonal articles. We also have local programs such as this, and we have the handbook, which is a really handy resource. So again, disclaimer, this is not my usual topics. Like my coworker Erin has she's a registered dietitian. Her whole degree is in nutrition. This is really her and my coworkers and family and consumer sciences rodeo, so to say. I'm doing my best and I'll provide a general overview, but I do not have the background to go into like really specific details. But I'll give you the general overview. There are a lot of factors that go into food preservation, like a lot. Temperature is really big to consider, all sorts of things, the environment, what your food is being stored in, the types of things that you use to store your food in. There's a lot of factors. So I'm going to give you the general overview, but please be aware that if one thing goes wrong, that would be specific to you. I probably didn't cover it in this, and you got to use your best discretion. And if you get stumped, like I said, I do every day, reaching out to my coworkers and family and consumer sciences for more details is going to be your best bet. And they can point you in the direction of other people to talk to as well. And just really try to be as safe as you can. And one thing I'll say again later is if you're in doubt of anything you've preserved, like if it has some weird growth or odor or whatever, the term is when in doubt, throw it out. There's some stuff you don't want to risk when it comes to food preservation. So now we've got that like uncomfortable stuff over. Let's just go on with the presentation. So preserving the harvest from your garden is so satisfying. It's so great. You can eat it longer throughout the year, except for the window when the food is ripened. You can share with your friends and family, your coworkers, whoever. It's very nutritious and a really good way to preserve nutrition. Preserving your own food can also cut down on environmental factors such as like the amount of gas it takes to transport food from the farm to the grocery store to your house. It can also reduce the amount of energy used like in grocery stores and all of that. And also, if you use reusable packaging, you're reducing your waste. So there's a lot of really good benefits to it. It's very nutritious. You know what's going in your food. You don't have to worry about any chemicals that I certainly can't pronounce a lot of them. So none of those. You know exactly what goes in. You know exactly how you grew it. So it's pretty safe as long as you're safe. UMD and University of Maryland Extension offers a whole lot of workshops on these. We did one on canning about a month ago, and part of the reason I say I'm just providing a general overview today is because that canning workshop, which I can provide a link to, was almost 2 hours long, but they covered a lot of stuff and they still didn't even cover everything. There are so many options when it comes to preserving your food at home. It's awesome. It's really fun. It's just great. So something to consider when you're going to harvest your food for home preservation are when your food is ripened. You don't want to harvest unripe food it's not going to ripen once you preserve it. Like once you can it, it's not going to ripen anymore. Canning halts the ripening process. And so do other food preservation methods because it changes the enzymes up. So you want to make sure when you harvest your food, it's at the ripeness that you're going for the recipe. So it really helps to know when the peak ripeness of the specific food is. And it's really, you can combine different flavors. It's just an opportunity to really have some fun. So this is just like general, couple calendars. I put a couple slides up of when is ripened when, but I can provide a link to this because this is kind of hard to, it's definitely not easy to memorize, but you'll get the hang of it once you get doing it. And then some of these things like spinach, it says it's ripe in May. It'll also be ripe. It's ripe in the spring and the fall. Same with like peas, beans. Yeah, it says June to September 15th. So yeah, just showing you that so many foods are different so long throughout the season. And also, I'm going to go back one slide. Really, our season, our like harvest season starts pretty much in April. You can leave like carrots and turnips in the ground over the winter and harvest them once the ground thaws. But really, about April is when we can start harvesting food here. And we can really get a nice, bountiful harvest right here in Southern Maryland. And if we preserve our food that we grow here, we don't have to go to the grocery store as much. And we know exactly what's in the food and everything. So it's really good. We have lots of options. You can grow your own food and harvest it there, or you can go to farmers markets. Like I know at the BAE farmers markets, you can get seconds peaches from like Trosbacks. You can get all sorts of different food from so many different places. Everywhere sells cantaloupes, peppers, all sorts of delicious food you can get at the farmers markets too if you don't want to grow your own food at home, because some of this stuff takes a lot of space and a lot of work. But other things like beans are a little quicker and easier for the home gardener. And again, here's some more. We're going all the way till November. You can get really December, sweet potatoes, December. So we can really harvest quite a while and then have plenty of food to eat through the winter. Or if we want to eat tomatoes in November and the tomatoes are gone because the frost got them, well, we have canned tomatoes. So lots of really good options. And not only is there so much food to harvest and preserve here in Southern Maryland, there's so many ways of preserving food. So the best thing is just pick a method that's best for you and like consider like what does best for you mean? Like how soon do you want to use your food? What ways do you want to use it? Like do you want to make a jelly to go on a sandwich, or do you want to freeze your berries whole so that you can use them in a cobbler later, or just put them in a yogurt parfait or something, or whatever else you would like. So there's different ways to preserve, and it's all up to you. That's the joy of it. And preserving is great because fresh food only stays fresh for so long. I know this is such a text-heavy slide. I'm sorry. And it's just a lot of information straight from the National Preservation website. But the high percentage of water makes fresh foods very perishable. They can grow bacteria, molds, and yeasts. And those food enzymes I mentioned, they can react with oxygen and have more moisture loss. There's a lot of microorganisms that live and multiply quickly on the surfaces of fresh food and on the inside of bruised, insect damaged, and diseased foods. And these can cause a lot of havoc on your vegetables. So they only really last for so long when they're fresh. So preserving them, you can have your food longer, not have to keep buying and buying. Just grow and preserve and you're good. So one of the most popular methods, yet most sometimes difficult methods of food preservation, is canning. It's amazing. You can save food long time out of your freezer, because like freezing, yeah, you can save food for some food easily up to a year without losing the quality of the food. But canning, you can save at least a year. So it's usually pretty good. There are timelines. You'd have to check for each type of food that you're canning to see how long it's good for and the method that you canned it. There's a lot that goes into canning that I cannot cover today. That link that's called Preserve Your Harvest from the Home Garden Information Center. Like I said, it's almost 2 hours long and they still don't even cover everything. But that goes over a lot. And then, of course, other benefits of canning are that it's convenient and practical, and it's an opportunity to share your harvest with your friends and family longer. You can give a nice homemade jar of pickles or something as your Christmas present or holiday present to someone. There's lots of different options with it. Oh, I had to put a picture, sorry. Proper canning practices are so important, and they include these but are not limited to these. You have to carefully select your food. You don't want to put food that's already rotting in a can. Some fresh foods you're going to have to peel to remove any chance of gross stuff growing in your cans. You can hot pack food. You want to add some acid to some foods. You want to make sure the jars you use, that's one of the most important things, are good. You don't want cracked jars, any of that. You want to make sure the lids seal properly. They go over all of these in really good detail and tips on how to select your jars and everything in that presentation. And you really want to make sure your jars are properly sanitized in boiling water or pressure canner for the correct period of time. And there's a lot more that goes into it. But practicing all of these safe canning practices, as well as everything else that's covered in that presentation, they help remove oxygen, destroy destructive enzymes, prevent the growth of undesirable bacteria, yeasts, and molds, and help form a high vacuum in jars. And that's great because the tight seals will keep liquid in and air and bad microorganisms out. Safety is absolutely paramount when it comes to canning. Cleanliness and temperature control are key. Make sure to follow a recipe since there's so much that goes into it and a lot of really chemistry involved. I don't recommend altering recipes. Family consumer science also, we don't recommend altering recipes. Find one that's been tested and stick to it. Botulism poisoning is real and it's not, you can't smell it, you can't see it. It's really hard to detect. It's just from improper canning. It can be deadly. So if you're in doubt, again, watch this presentation and learn more about botulism and proper canning. And if you know something hasn't been properly canned and you're in doubt, the term is when in doubt, throw it out. It's not something to risk. All right, now we've got the stressful part of canning over. And I literally just gave you a basic 101 of maybe some things not to do and a little bit of what to do. Sorry, that is a whole 2-hour presentation. Freezing is really good for many fruits and vegetables. It's simple, easy, and effective. It's really good if you blanch, but not always. Some vegetables do better if you blanch them first. And properly frozen food is good indefinitely, but quality goes down over time. I put a little chart here on the bottom right that talks about like how long food is usually good for before the quality of the food starts going downhill in your freezer. So fruits and vegetables, which are going to be most of the stuff from the garden at the Lexington Park, Passive Park Community Garden, are good for at least 8 to 12 months before there's going to be any loss of quality of the food. And you can use all different sorts of packaging to store your produce in the freezer. If you use the simplest one is a freezer bag, like here. I guess I shouldn't have put Ziploc, but it's a good example. Just something, if you use a plastic bag, the freezer, make sure you get the freezer because that's going to help keep your food better. You can also use sorts of Tupperware that's really good that says like freezer safe. Any other containers, you want to make sure when you go buy them, it says freezer safe. Uh, Blanching that I mentioned is really good because, I'm sorry, the picture is a little on the side here. It stops the enzyme actions, which can cause loss of flavor, color, and texture. And I put that twice, sorry. And then when you're doing it, you want to use 1 gallon of water per pound of prepared vegetables. So what you do is you boil some water and then you put the vegetables in it real quick, usually until it, like for broccoli or asparagus or green beans, until it really brightens up. Then you take it out and you put it in ice cold water. And when you put it in that ice cool water, it should take the same amount of time approximately as you did putting it in the hot water. And there are different charts available online. I can find the link for those, but they're on the National Food Preservation website about how long you should blanch your vegetables for. And it varies vegetable to vegetable. And not all food freezes well. Here's some charts of things that do and don't freeze well. You can see like cucumbers, cabbage, lettuce, different egg whites cooked don't freeze well. Icings made from egg whites, like those fluffy icings, don't freeze well. Sour cream doesn't freeze well. It separates and gets all watery. So there's a lot of things. While a lot of vegetables do freeze well, you can see here like cabbage, celery, cress, cucumbers, endive, lettuce, parsley, radishes, cooked potatoes. A lot of these things don't freeze real well. So freezing is good, but it's not always the best option. And when you do freeze food, you want to make sure you follow safe thawing practices, because that's another, like how canning, you can get sick if you do it wrong. If you thaw your food wrong, you can get sick from that too. The best way to thaw your food is in the fridge at 40 degrees or less, and you can do it in cold running water, less than 70 degrees. You can also, if it's already like sealed, like in a sealed vacuum bag, you can get a tub of cold water and let it sit in there and change the water every 30 minutes. You can also thaw food in the microwave, but you should really only do that if you're serving it immediately. And it can be kind of iffy to do that because sometimes it can like cook on the outside and partially cook it, and what if your food gets all rubbery? Ugh. So the best way to thaw your food really is in the fridge or under cold running water. You really want to avoid thawing in warm water or at room temperature, which my coworker Erin always calls the danger zone, between 40 degrees and 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Those are the temperatures where bacteria multiply rapidly, and there's not a whole lot you can do to stop it. The best thing you can do is just avoid thawing your food between 40 degrees Fahrenheit and 30 degrees Fahrenheit. Vegetables, though, you don't really have to thaw them. You can cook them straight from frozen. And fruits, depending on how you want to use them, can actually be really good still partially frozen, because the little ice crystals can kind of offset some of the mushiness from like really thawed fruit. Air drying is an excellent method for preserving herbs. All you have to do is harvest your herbs. You want to do it before they flower. Once herbs flower, they get a weird woody taste, texture. They don't taste as good. All their energy goes from being nice, tasty foliage to pretty flowers. So harvest them before they flower. You bunch them up. Like here, there's like some rosemary and thyme. If you bunch it up, tie it to a string. I used to do it. I'd have a clothes hanger with a couple bundles of herbs hanging off it, and hang it in a well-ventilated, dry space, not in direct sun. Direct sun, from my experience, will brown it and it doesn't taste as good. You want them to be nice and green, not bright green, but still green once they're dry. And usually once you feel them, and if they're crispy, done. And then once you do have them dried, you want to store them in a cool, dry, dark area, like a pantry, in a nice, tight jar, pictured below here. Those are really good. So yeah, it's one of the simplest in my opinion, funnest, because if you hang it in your room or something, like your room's gonna smell like fresh herbs for like a week until they're dry. So it's nice. They can take like sometimes they only need like 3 days to dry. Other times they need like a little more than a week to dry. But it's simple, effective, and then you have your own fresh herbs that you grew yourself as long as you want, really. As long as you store them right, they'll stay good for a while. You can also dry vegetables, fruit, herbs in the oven. Uh, this gets a little bit tricky. Like with canning, you really want to use a thermometer. You want to keep everything to 140 degrees. Some ovens don't even go down to that, but usually propping your door open 2 to 6 inches anyway. So if it doesn't go down to that, once you prop your door open and maybe put a fan right outside the door to help with air circulation, if your oven doesn't have a fan, it probably won't be hard to keep it at 140, even if it doesn't go down to 140. Oven racks should be spaced 2 to 3 inches apart when you use this drying method, and the pan should be smaller than the racks by about 3 to 4 inches front to back. Um, and you really, if you do this, you want to be careful if you have kids around because you don't want them sticking their little hands in the oven. That's not good. Another method that can be really fun is dehydrating. You can buy these dehydrators. I just found this one offline. I'm not recommending it. I didn't even read reviews. It just was a really good picture, and I liked that it was clear. This is a really good one for educational purposes. So you can see that you just lay your food nice and neat on all these layers, and then you set the temperature, and then you let it go. You'd follow specific directions. A lot of times these will come with manuals about dehydrating certain foods. Following manuals good, and Family Consumer Sciences website from UMD is also really good. They have a lot of good resources there. Dehydrating is really great because it reduces the moisture of foods to levels that bacterium that decays food can't survive. So your food will last a really long time. And it's again at that 140 degrees Fahrenheit. You don't want it to fall below that. But these things get airtight if they're done properly, so you don't have to worry. It'll take care of everything. You don't have to prop the oven door open 2 to 6 inches or any of that. It's really an easier method and more energy efficient than using your oven, because running an oven for as long as it can take to dehydrate some food takes a bit of energy. And these dehydrators can be as low as about $50, and they can go up to, ooh, I saw some expensive ones. I think they were for restaurants, but they were over like 2,000. But there's all different types of machines of these. Shop around. There's lots of options, lots of things to look for. The National Food Preservation website has a whole bunch of good things that you can shop around, tips and tricks and everything. Another method of preserving your food, and one the last I'm going to talk about today, is fermentation. And this is similar to canning. You want to follow a tested recipe from a reliable source. Don't alter the recipe, because you have to have a certain amount of salt and acidity and all these things go into making this a safe food preservation method. It's really good to just stick to the recipe. And you want to use, because most of them will call for salt in the recipe, and table salt won't work well for this. You want to use canning or pickling salt, which you can usually find next to canning stuff in your grocery store. It's usually more prevalent from my experience shopping for this in like the spring and summer, but you can usually still find it at the grocery store. If not, you can order it online. And they recommend white and distilled cider vinegars of 5%. That's the sweet spot. And you want to, again, practice good cleanliness and sanitation, just like with canning. And you really want the canning jars and self-sealing lids. It's very similar to canning, but a little bit different. And yeah, main thing again, it's food safety. And you can store fresh produce too. You can preserve them just on your counter or in your fridge. Different produce should be stored differently depending on what they are. Regardless of how they're stored, remember to wash your food before you eat it. Maybe not before you store it, depending on the food, but definitely before you eat it. And if you wash it before you store it, You want to dry it first so it doesn't have any mold or rotting opportunities or any more than normal. And this is just general guidelines. If you do everything that I'm telling you to a T and you still see a foul odor or texture, mold, discoloration, toss it out, because there's probably some. Remember, I said there's a lot of factors to this. There's probably some factor that I can't cover in this presentation, and it's best not to risk it. When in doubt, toss it out. Some things are normal, but usually you can tell. So here's just some tips. These are on the University of Maryland website. I can get together a handout with all these things. You can see like berries do best in the fridge, crisper for 2 to 3 days. You can see apricots, cherries, and plums do well in a perforated bag in the fridge. Tomatoes you want to store at room temp, so you don't even want to store those in the fridge. A lot of stuff does well in perforated bags and refrigerator crispers. Pumpkin can last up to 1 month at room temp. All sorts of options. But I'm at the end of my time today. So again, this was just a quick overview. Here's some of the links. I have a lot more that I can put together for everyone. So yeah, that's basic food preservation.
Mariah, thank you so much. That was amazing.
Thank
I have
you.
I have a couple of questions right off the bat about freezing. I know they have those food saver things where it like vacuums out all of the air from the, you know what I'm talking about? It's like a bag, plastic bag. You put your food in it and it vacuums out all of the air.
Mhm.
What do you what are your thoughts on those in terms of, food preservation?
Uh, I think they can be good. They're really good for freezing. Um, I don't have a whole lot of details on them. That would be a question I would really get more details from my coworkers over in Family and Consumer Sciences.
Mhm.
But they, as long as your food is good when you freeze it in that method, it should at least be safe. If you freeze rotten food that way, it's not going to be good.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. I've got a few questions here that we can go ahead and post up and go through. One question is, what is your favorite food to preserve for use year round?
Well, frozen green beans are always good. You can just kind of throw them in a pan or throw them in soup, throw them in the oven. Uh, I really like jams and jellies. All my coworkers kind of giggle. It's like a running thing. Like, all right, Mariah, what type of PB and J do you have today? Because there's so many types of jellies and like nut butters. Like, you can really eat a PB and J like all the time. And never eat the same PB and J twice and get a lot of nutrition from them.
What
Uh,
kind of jams and jelly? Like strawberry, grape,
yeah, strawberry,
all of
grape.
it, all of the above.
Yeah, pumpkin, cherry, apricot. There's all sorts of yummy jellies out there.
That's awesome. Awesome. Okay, let's go to our next question. Um, in regards to canning, what is hot packing?
Uh, we would have to double check with my coworkers in Family and Consumer Sciences for more details on
Yeah.
that one.
Okay, no problem. No problem. Okay, and last question. What are some examples of foods to dehydrate other than jerky?
Yeah, fruits are really like fruit leather. You can dehydrate vegetables. Like you might think of like cup of noodles, like how it has all those like dehydrated vegetables at the top.
Yeah,
Uh, so fruits and vegetables are really good to dehydrate. You make like or like those apple and like banana chips that aren't really chips, they're just dehydrated, so they're a little healthier that way, but it's still a good snack.
right, right. I gotcha. Oh, like the dehydrated mango slices that you can buy at the store.
Yeah, yep,
You can put with like trail mix and stuff like that.
yep.
Gotcha. Well, that's pretty cool. I mean, I would love to start dehydrating my own foods. I think that would be amazing. and making
Yeah.
a natural mix.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, I think that's all the time we have for today. I did want to mention that we do have a food security survey that the Healthy St. Mary's Partnership Food Security Subcommittee has released. And I wanted to share the link for that if you are interested in promoting that. Let's see. You go to healthystmarys.com/food security. You will be able to access the food security that way. As well as I wanted to show more information about the upcoming community gardens project that we have as well. Here's the link for that, healthystmarys.com/community gardens. The Lexington Manor Passive Park Community Garden is a project that we're looking to kick off in the spring of 2023, right around the corner. And we hope to recruit a lot of community members as well as organizations and enthusiasts who are interested in gardening to join us and start their own garden. And here is the Facebook page as well if you'd like to follow Lexington Manor Pass Park Community Gardens on Facebook just to see what kind of updates they have going on a regular basis. Feel free. And then if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Healthy St. Mary's Partnership via email. Our email is stmaryspartnership@gmail.com. Mariah, thank you so much for joining us again for
Thank you.
volume 2 of our Community Gardens educational workshop.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.